So it's 1978, the decade's drawing to a close, music is changing. Ringo's popularity is pretty much at an all time low, and his career's in a free fall, as is his personal life. So something's got to give. So what does he come up with? He does a TV special in conjunction with the release of his new album, and that album is Ringo Starr's Bad Boy. There's the hype sticker that says contains songs from the hit, and I think that's stretching it a bit. Television series Ringo, Special Ringo. This album came out April 21st, 1978 in England, and a few months later came out on June 16th in the United States of the same year. So, yeah, I mean, people just, nobody really has any real interest in Ringo at this point. Again, from he's a Beatle, so there's always going to be interest. But I mean, as far as new music, even the big time Beatle fans are a lot of them are pretty much lost interest in new Ringo product by this time. And it shows the album only gets to 126 on the United States chart, and it doesn't chart at all in England. A couple of singles come out, two in the United States, one in the UK. None of those chart. He's on Portrait Records now, having been dropped by Atlantic. And so, yeah, let's get into. Here's the album. My copy still has the old Peaches Records sticker, which was a great record store. Used to be around here in the Fort Worth and Dallas area back in the 70s and into the 80s. I don't know if it was around other places or not. Got the hype sticker, got the shrink wrap. Here's the back cover with the picture of Ringo looking like he's passed out, and he may well be, and the song listing. Inner sleeve, we've got lyrics to the songs, and then we've got kind of a nice picture of Ringo looking pretty hangdog, but Ringo always looks a little hangdog anyway. So that's a picture by Nancy Andrews, who was his girlfriend at the time before he met and wed Barbara Bach. Yeah, so this came out with a TV special. I remember I didn't buy this album at the time. I bought this album years later, but I remember it coming out. I remember seeing it in the stores. I did watch the TV special, and if I'm not mistaken, I should have checked, but I think the Riddles came out in 78 too. I think they both came out right around the same time. Riddles, of course, is a great sort of British spoof on the Beatles. A great show to look up with a lot of good music included with it. The Ringo special is one of the worst things you'll ever see in your life. It's just terrible. It's so bad that it's almost good. I do kind of enjoy it in that sort of Plan 9 from Outer Space way. It's worth checking out if you're a Ringo fan or a Beatles fan, or even if you're not, it's worth checking out because it's just so profoundly awful that you'll be sitting there thinking, what in the hell were these people thinking, and what kind of drugs were they on when they put this whatever the hell this is together. And I don't know that it ever came out on video or DVD or Blu-ray, but it's easy enough to find on YouTube. It's like I think it's like 45 minutes or so show, and I watched it. Had seen it. It'd been a while since I seen it, and I watched it again here recently because I knew this album review was coming up, just to make sure. And it's still as bad as I remember it back in 1978 when I watched it on TV that night. But it's worth watching. It's definitely just one of the strangest, most bizarre, mind-boggling things you'll ever see. He's I think is it Art Carney's in it, Carrie Fisher from Star Wars, and Ringo sings "You're 16" to her in a sort of a romantic interlude. Very, very. Don't even have words for it. And it's definitely worth checking out the show. And several of the songs on the album are on the show, performed in the show. And it's sort of the not Princess and the Pea, the Prince and the Pauper, where the rich guy and the famous rich and guy and the poor guy trade places to see whether life is better on the other side of the fence type thing. Ringo trades places with some schlub named Ogner Ratz who sells maps to the Stars houses in Beverly Hills, and pretty much just goes strange and downhill from there. But the album, like I said, didn't go anywhere. Of course, his last three albums really hadn't done that well commercially or critically either. His foray into disco and modern sounds, modern for 1977, Ringo the Fourth, was a huge failure, sales wise and critically. So this is sort of just a return to regular songs, I guess, for lack of a better word, just sort of making some music and seeing what happens. Interesting thing about this, Ringo is the drummer on this album, which I think, well, he's a drummer, of course he is, but most of his albums, I don't know, this may be the only one where he's the sole drummer, because most of his albums, it's him and other people doing the picking up the drum work there. There might be some others where he's the only drummer on it, but this one is one where there's no one else providing drums or percussion but him. So that's kind of interesting, or maybe not, but I think it's a little interesting. All the other interesting thing about this is there's only two songs on here that were written by Ringo. Both were written by him and Vinnie Poncia. All the others are written by other people, so they're covers, which is kind of interesting too. So this is a better album than Ringo the Fourth, and in my opinion. But let's get into it. Side one starts with "Who Needs a Heart." This is one of the two Ringo and Poncia originals. It's another kind of heartbreak song. What good are you without someone to love? I don't know, Ringo. I ask myself that question every night, but I don't know if this is another song about Maureen, because they had broken up by this time. Maybe it's a song about Nancy Andrews, because I don't know where their relationship was when this album was. I don't think they went out for too long, so maybe it's about that. Maybe it's just a song about everyone needs love, and when you're heartbroken and you got nobody, you feel like you're nobody type song. But it's a good start. It's a good song. I like it. I'm going to give it an 8. Good way to open the album. Second song is "Bad Boy," title cut, which was an old 1957 song done by a group called the Jive Bombers. Kind of reminds me of the old, not exactly doo-wop, but those songs like "Shaboom Shaboom" by the Chords, and I went blank, but a couple of those other old 50s sort of songs like that. It's musically nice. It's a bluesy sort of beat to it, so the music is nice. The "bad boy oi 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 oi" that goes all through it does get annoying, so get some points off from that. Had it not had that, but I mean, I guess the original song had it, so you had to have it. I've never heard the original, I'm not sure, but that gets really annoying, and that takes quite a bit away from a musically pretty okay song. But I'm going to give it a 5.1 just because of the oi 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 is stuck in your head and hard to get rid of, and I'm not very pleased with that. Third song is "Lipstick Traces," which was an old song written by Alan Toussaint under a pseudonym, and came out in 1962. I forget who did it originally, but it's one of those songs that's been kicked around and a ton of people have covered since. It's a good one. He manages to sound like a 50s song, and also sort of like a vintage Ringo song. Vintage Ringo, I'm thinking of like the Ringo album and Rotogravure and that period of Ringo. It has that vintage Ringo sound, which it's Ringo, so again, no surprise. I don't know that even makes sense, but kind of a nice 50s mix and patented Ringo sound put together there. Good song. I'm going to give that a 6.7. And sometimes, Joe, it's more than a 6, but it's not quite a 7. So there you go. Let's see. That's an in joke. Heart on My Sleeve is the next song, fourth song on side one. Really do like this. This was written by, I forgot to write their name down, but uh, it was, let me see, I may have that. It was written by, not that y'all probably really care, Bernard Gallagher and Graham Lyle, who were a English duo, sort of a folk and rock duo that were around in the late 60s. I've never heard their music, so I'm not really familiar with them. They did have something to do with Apple Records. Um, I don't remember what. But anyway, Heart on My Sleeve, I like. It's a good song. Problem is, it's too damn plodding. It's too damn slow. The pace of it, Ringo's version anyway, I've never heard the original. Sounds like he's almost drugged out on Quaaludes or something, which, this being that time in Ringo's life, there's a good chance that that might have been the case. Needs a little more pep in his step, needs a up the tempo some. I'm not saying it needs to be like, you know, the Ramones or a punk rock song or something, but needs a little boost there in the tempo, and it would have been a lot better song. But it's still a good song, and Ringo does a pretty good job of it, slow plodding pace aside. So I'm going to give Heart on My Sleeve an 8, and that's one of the songs that's in the that he performs in the TV special. And I always remember liking that back in '78 when I first saw the show, and so pretty good Ringo song, just needs to be sped up a bit. Fifth song on side one, Where Did Our Love Go, which is of course the old Supremes hit. Well, starts off with cheesy sort of '70s dated synthesizer and guitar sound, which I don't know, it's kind of quaint now, but it's a little annoying still all the same. And if you're watching this, Joe, I don't want to get in the whole how can stuff be dated, and I know how didactic you can get on that, and I'm just not in the mood to get into all that right now. But yeah, if you're going to do a cover of a song, these other songs that Lipstick Traces was a well known song, but Bad Boy and Heart on My Sleeve and the covers so far were not very well known, so that's fine. But if you're going to do a cover, my thought is if you're going to do a cover of a well known song, you need to really put your own stamp on it, and or do something to make it different. And otherwise, what's the point? Is the Beatles did a lot of great covers that were as good or better than the originals, and most bands, when they do a cover, it just pretty much sounds like the original, or it's really bad. Either way, here it's Ringo. It bounces along, and he does an okay job on it. It's a great song, the original by the Supremes. Ringo doesn't really add anything to it, and there's no reason that I can see other than he needed to fill some space on an album to do this song. You know, if you're going to do something like this, do like what Devo did with Satisfaction. And I'm not saying that that's better than the original. It's not, but at least it's interesting. And I do like Devo's version. It's kind of funky and cool. But don't just do a straight version of a song that everybody knows. There's no point in it. And the same here. So, Where Did Our Love Go? He does all right with it for what it is. It's pointless though, so I'll just give that a 5. Side 2 opens with a thing called Hard Times, which was written by Peter Skellern, who was a I don't know who he was, but let's see here. Sorry for the delay. He was born in 1947 and was an English singer, songwriter, and pianist. So, I don't know. Anyway, not that any of that matters much, I guess. But Hard Times, it's just a good song. It's probably the most upbeat song on the album. It's partly a rocker, mainly a rocker. goes saying, I mean, this isn't the Clash or Led Zeppelin here, it's Ringo, but it's partly a rocker, but it's got a slight countryish flavor to it here and there. It's sort of a, song as old as humankind. She's a pain, but she loves me and I love her type song. Um, not not a massively great song, maybe, but very enjoyable. It's something that another one that had it got some promotion and some radio play. I could have seen this on the radio back in 1978 and being a moderate hit. Uh, but Hard Time's a good one. I'm going to give that an 8. Second song on side 2 is called Tonight, which is very strange because this is 1978. The opening few bars of the song is very 80s sounding, kind of an early 80s sound to it. It's kind of strange. But then it slips right into a 70s sounding ballad, which is basically what it is. So Ian McLagan, if I'm pronouncing that right, I think that's how you say his name, wrote this with some other guy. He was, of course, with the Small Faces and the Faces. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2014. And it's kind of a song that guy gets a wonderful girlfriend, and it's sort of a I'm so lucky to have a girl this beautiful and wonderful type song. And I'm thinking Ian must have written this about Kim Moon, who was, of course, the wife of Keith Moon, drummer of The Who. Her and Keith were married from 66 to about 1975 or 6 or so, and her and Ian hooked up around 76 or so, and they later got married until she tragically died. She was a beauty, Kim Moon. She was better looking than Patty Boyd even. But sadly, she died in 2006. She was living in Austin. Him and her were married and living in Austin, Texas at the time, and she was in a truck ran into her car, and she was killed at the scene. So, and then he's dead now, and of course Keith Moon's dead. So Kim and Keith had one daughter, Mandy Moon, who would be, I guess, in her late 40s, early 50s now. But anyway, kind of a sad deal there. But Tonight is a very nice song, and Ringo does it well. I'd like to look up McLagan's version to hear the original because I've never heard it, just to see how it compares and contrasts there. But I'm going to give Tonight an 8. I like that song. It's a good one, like I said. Third song is Monkey See, Monkey Do, which is, again, kind of strange because it's got a bit of an 80s sound to it. 3-4 years ahead of time. I mean, obviously the 80s were 2 years away, but I'm saying it's got sort of that 82, 83 type sound a little bit. It's written by a guy named Michael Franks, who was a jazz musician guy who played with a bunch of people. I've never heard of him otherwise. It's just okay. It's very repetitive. Monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do, monkey see, monkey do, and it goes on a bit too long. But it's all right. But I'll give it just a 4. There's nothing too special about that song. Fourth song is Old Time Reloving, which is the second Ringo song. Ringo and Vinnie Poncia written. Nice little background bit by Ringo. The ba da 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 da. Partway through there, it's a pleasant song. It's nice pace. It's got a nice organ and keyboard playing through it. Kind of builds up a little head of steam toward the end and has a nice conclusion to the song. So Old Time Reloving, I'm going to give that an 8. And then we end the album with a song called A Man Like Me, which was originally titled A Mouse Like Me because right around this time, right simultaneously, Ringo released an album called Scouse the Mouse, which is not completely a Ringo album, but I think he's on most of it. It was the soundtrack to an animated cartoon about a mouse, an English cartoon that was. I don't know that the show ever actually came out. Maybe it did. Would have been on English TV, not shown in America, as far as I know, if it came out. And I don't know if it's on YouTube. I should have checked, and don't know if it ever came out on video or DVD. The album has Ringo singing and then some other people. I can't remember who off the top of my head. I should have checked that too. The people that voice the characters on the cartoon, I guess, and it's a cartoon with songs, obviously. So that is, I've never seen an actual copy of that album, but I've seen it for sale before on Amazon and eBay, and it's one of the three rarest Ringo records. It's I don't know how hard it is to find, but it doesn't show up all the time. And when I've seen it for sale, they go for about $100 or so. I'd like to have a copy, but maybe someday. And I don't know if the album's any good or not. But that all comes back to A Man Like Me. So on the Scouse the Mouse album, there's a song called A Mouse Like Me. For the Bad Boy album, he just took the same song and changed the title to A Man Like Me. Um, and it does sound like the song does sound like a musical from a play or a cartoon or a movie. It's a fun song, a little downbeat and forlorn, but nice song. I'm going to give that a 7. Overall, I'm going to give this album a 7. I think this is one that, even though it didn't get much airplay or sell many records for Ringo, is not a half bad album, and I kind of enjoy it. So there is Bad Boy. Check out that Ringo special on YouTube. It's you'll be thanking me or cursing me, but it's you'll be sitting there just wondering what the hell's going on and how they came up with that stuff. And have fun, and we'll be back with some more Ringo albums when I get around to it. So, see ya.